Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3732 AN. Today's date is September 16th, 2025, and the title of the episode is Central Bank Doesn't Want to Lower Rates. Eric Trump, Bitcoin, Modern Day Gold. Watch gold. Let's talk about protecting our wealth. Do you ever wonder if your 401k or IRA will really cover your retirement? The truth is, traditional accounts often can't keep up with today's rising costs and an unpredictable economy. At My Digital Money, they believe your future deserves more than usual safe options. That's why My Digital Money makes it simple to invest your retirement funds in top-performing assets like Bitcoin, up over 1,000% in the past 5 years, and other cryptocurrencies, so you can build a stronger future with potential tax-free returns. With no annual fees, free cold storage to protect your assets, and a partnership with Equity Trust, the nation's largest self-directed IRA provider, managing over $74 billion, you can invest with confidence knowing your money will be there when you need it. You've worked hard for your savings. Now let your money work for you. Visit mydigitalmoney.com today and discover a smarter way to secure your future. Or just click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see they're trying to resist Trump every step of the way, and they do not want to lower the rates. Now, it looks like Trump and the Patriots, they now have trapped the Federal Reserve into lowering the rates. Now, the question is, are they going to do it? And if they do it, it most likely will be a very small quarter point decrease in the rates, because, again, their entire mission is not to make the economy work, grow, be successful. Their entire mission is to destroy their own system, to bring us into the central bank digital currency, into the Great Reset. And this is why we have Christine Lagarde and Klaus Schwab today telling us that this is the time, this is the moment that they're choosing to push all of this. And you could see just by what they're doing with Cook right now, Lisa Cook, who's the Fed Gov, where Pulte now is producing evidence that she has committed mortgage fraud. They are continually fighting against this. An appeals court decided, you know something, let Lisa Cook stay there. Let her be involved in the discussions on if the interest rate should be cut or not. And the 3-judge panel included a Biden appointee, another Biden appointee, and the last one was Trump, who appointed the judge that dissented on all this. So you could see that this was done on purpose, and they want to keep Lisa Cook in this position because they do not want Trump to have full leverage over the Federal Reserve, because if he has full leverage over the Federal Reserve, he'll be able to bring the rate down, not by just a point, but probably almost 2 points, which would actually take this economy to the next level. And this is something they do not want. They don't want people to see it. They don't want people to understand it. They don't want people to experience it, because once this happens, everyone's going to realize that Trump is right and the Fed has been keeping the economy back. So they're going to do everything in their power. And of course, they're going to create the narrative that they lowered it a quarter point. And look, it hasn't really changed the economy that much. So Trump is wrong. I do believe they're going to try to do this. And remember, they're going to try to resist lowering the rate as best they possibly can. I'm not saying they're not going to lower it. They might. But if they do lower it, it's going to be very minimal. And they're going to try to create the narrative that nothing really happened. Trump was wrong. You see, he told us to lower the rates, and look, nothing happened. But again, Trump has been telling them that, look, the job numbers are fake. You've been using these job numbers during the Biden administration, and you made all the wrong calls. At this point in time, since we know the job numbers are fake, you need to lower the rates by quite a bit. You're behind the curve, and that's why he calls them too late, because he's always too late to everything. Because again, they're following a different agenda. They're following the central bank agenda, which is not to better the people, not to have the economy grow, because their system doesn't allow that to happen. When you look at the central bank system, their system actually makes everyone into a slave, and it makes people work harder and harder and harder because they lose their buying power over time, and the value of the currency declines, which means you need a lot more of those pieces of paper to do anything. And over time, the government continually spends and spends and spends, which creates inflation because they're borrowing from the Federal Reserve. And this is a cycle that just never ends. And they need more and more tax receipts to cover the interest on the debt. So once again, you could see that this is not going to work. It's not going to benefit the people. And this is why they're most likely going to try to push back until the very, very end. But Bill Pulte responds to Lisa Cook and what the appeals court just ruled. And he says, we will not be intimidated from following the law. We are submitting more criminal referrals this week for mortgage fraud. Now, of course, we have the appeals court. They're saying that, listen, she still gets due process and she still is allowed to do this. So again, she can't be fired just yet. But again, if you know that someone did something wrong, and you could see it all across the country, you could see it in government offices, you could see it in the military, there are certain rules. And if they see that, hey, look, you're not following the rules, then this person must be let go, suspended, or whatnot. And this is what Trump did. But again, what Trump is doing, he's showing the people. He's showing the people the truth, and he's showing everyone that the Fed, they are going to be responsible for what happens next. Now, Stephen Moran, he is confirmed on the Federal Reserve Board, and he's going to attend the interest rate meeting at the Fed. And this is going to be very, very interesting when we watch all this play out. Because you have to remember, Trump's economy that he's been creating, the parallel economic system, it is ready to take off. And actually, even if the Fed doesn't lower the rates, you're going to see incredible things happen, because what Trump is doing right now, he's actually building a system that is competing with the Federal Reserve, and it's getting stronger and stronger every single day, which means in the end, the Federal Reserve will not be able to stop this. And when you look at the GDP numbers, you could see that GDP is now going to be off the charts. Geiger Capital put this out and said, Atlanta Fed is now projecting that third quarter GDP will be plus 3.4%, a massive expansion. The U.S. economy is running hot. And yes, we have all this investment coming in. Yes, we see that Trump now is lowering the fuel prices and creating jobs across the country and building manufacturing plants. What he needs the American people to join in on all of this. Because again, when the rates are high, it stops people from doing something. Remember, he's still playing within the central bank system. He's still building the parallel economic system while he has to abide by what the central bank has set out. And this is what he's battling against. But I do believe as time goes on, you're going to see the parallel system get stronger and stronger and stronger. And this is what the Federal Reserve, the central bankers, are so afraid of, is that they can't allow it to get too strong. And I do believe this is why Christine Lagarde and Klaus Schwab have put out the message that we need the central bank digital currency, start preparing for that, and let's prepare for the Great Reset. Now, this doesn't mean it's going to happen. This means this is the move they're going to make. And I do believe this is why they've been battling Trump every step of the way. I'm talking about the Federal Reserve and trying to keep Cook in this position, because once Cook is removed, well, they're all cooked. So that means he will have the leverage over the Federal Reserve, and he'll be able to lower the rates. Let me ask you something. If you've built $100,000 or more in investments, do you really want all of it riding on the stock market? Think about it. Banks, billionaires, even entire countries are loading up on physical gold and silver. Why? Because when markets swing, real assets hold their value. That's why I want to tell you about Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to own investment-grade gold and silver, the kind the big players are buying. And you can actually hold it in your hand or put it safely in your retirement account. You've worked hard to build your wealth. Isn't it time you protected it? Noble Gold is family-owned, trusted by thousands, and ranked number one in gold IRAs for 4 years in a row. Their precious metal specialists are standing by to answer your questions and walk you through every step. Simple, safe, and easy. Visit x22gold.com. That is x22gold.com. Or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Quite a bit, which means his economy will really start to take off, and it will prove the Federal Reserve has been responsible for all of this. And this is something that they're going to try to stop way before it happens. So this is why I do believe they're sending this message out there. Now, we know the Supreme Court is going to be looking at Trump's tariffs, and I do believe that the Supreme Court is going to rule in favor of Trump's tariffs. And think about it, every step of the way, what Trump is doing, he's making sure that the Supreme Court, all the cases are brought up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rules in his favor because they're following the Constitution, following the rule of law. And once this is done, it actually removes the ammunition from the deep state, from the central bankers every step of the way. Because again, once the Supreme Court makes the ruling is there. So when Trump wants to do something, he can just do it. And this is going to be a major, major problem for the deep state, the central bankers. And they know this. And actually, Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said, tariff, and this coming from the Wall Street Journal, by the way, tariff case could give Trump massive new fiscal powers. If the Supreme Court rules in president's favor on tariffs, it could greenlight his raising other new tax revenue without Congress. Isn't that interesting? And this is something that they're going to try to stop every step of the way. And what's very interesting is that we know that the alternative currencies, they are now just taking off. Bitcoin is starting to move up. We see gold now over $3,700 an ounce. I mean, really think about this for a second. Gold at $3,700 an ounce. Every time the Fed continually pushes back, every time they continue on with their agenda, gold is going to tell you what's really going on. Now, remember, gold is still manipulated. They still use the paper market. It's still manipulated. It hasn't broke free of its manipulation just yet. But I do believe when it does, we're going to see gold skyrocket like we've never seen before. Forget $3,700. I think this is going to go all the way up to $15,000, $20,000 an ounce. Because think about it. Go back to 2010, 11, when they were using the paper markets to bring gold down to $1,100 an ounce. Back then, people were saying, can you imagine if gold went up to $3,000 an ounce? People would really understand that the fiat currency is in trouble. Now, here we are at $3,700, getting very close to $4,000 an ounce. I mean, this is just unheard of, because basically what this is showing everyone is that the fiat currency is worthless. It has lost all its value. Remember, with Bitcoin, which is, I do believe, electronic version of gold, they didn't have enough time to manipulate Bitcoin like they did with gold. Because remember, they've dealt with gold, I'm talking about the central bankers, for a very, very long time. Going back in time, they understood how to deal with silver. They knew how to deal with gold. They knew how to manipulate it all for the central bank system. And this is what they did in 71. As soon as we went off the gold standard, we went full fiat, they said, holy crap, we need to figure out how to control gold. Because if we just let gold do what it normally does, gold is going to continually move up and up and up. It's going to prove that the fiat system doesn't work. There's no value in these pieces of paper. So we need some type of mechanism to actually manipulate it enough so people don't look at it. And this is why they created the paper markets, to control it. Because remember, the paper markets, you don't need the gold. You could just say, hey, I just threw or dumped or whatever you want to do in the gold market, and you can control if it goes up or down. Most of the time, they're bringing it down. And yes, we do have Bitcoin right now, and I do believe that is the modern day gold, and so does Eric Trump. Eric Trump said on CNBC, Bitcoin is modern day gold. It's the greatest hedge to real estate. It's the greatest hedge to the fiat currency. And combine gold with Bitcoin, you have a beautiful gold system that competes against, I don't even think it's competing, because the fiat currency will never be able to stand up to the alternative currencies. Completely and utterly impossible. Because remember, the central bank system is based on debt. Gold is not based on debt. Bitcoin is not based on debt. And think about it. The central bank system, you can print as much fiat currency as you want. There is no limit on the amount of currency, which means the more you do, the less it's worth. It's almost like if you took some type of agent that's concentrated, you put it in a glass, and you continually add water. It dilutes it. It continually dilutes it and dilutes it and dilutes it. More water you add, it dilutes it until it doesn't really do anything anymore. There's no potency to it. It's the same thing with the currency. The more you print, the more you borrow, the more you put in circulation, it's worthless. Is gold in that same category? Is Bitcoin in that same category? Absolutely not. Actually, there's a finite amount of gold. There's a finite amount of Bitcoin, which means the value is going to be maintained in the future. And this is what the central bankers do not want you to see, because these types of currencies, they hold your buying power intact. compared to the fiat currency, which loses value over time. And once the population of the world sees this and experiences this, it's game over for their system. Nobody's ever going to want to go back to their system. And I do believe this is why Trump and the Patriots, Eric Trump, they're all pushing Bitcoin. Remember, this is an electronic version of gold, and it's easy to have because it's electronic. You don't have to carry those big gold bars. But I do believe people should probably have both. I think you should have physical in the house and also have Bitcoin, personal opinion. And I do believe that governments, countries, they will have both. They will have gold, I do believe, in their vaults to back up their national currency. And I do believe that they'll be able to transfer the gold into Bitcoin or Bitcoin back into gold to actually use this for international trade. And I do believe it will be used for both. And I do believe this is the direction that we're heading in right now. But you have to remember, the central bankers, they don't want anyone to see this. They don't want the people to experience it. So they're going to try to shut this down as best they possibly can. But in the end, they're going to fail, just like they're failing with everything else. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.